Shut up. You're not family. The words sliced through the stunned silence of the Blackwell Tower's 48th floor conference room. Before we continue this explosive family drama, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and comment what country you're watching from. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next in this billionaire dynasty's darkest secret. Harrison Blackwell III stood at the head of the polished mahogany table, his 6'3" frame rigid with fury, blue eyes narrowed to glacial slits. The 20 board members and major shareholders froze, fountain pens suspended mid-signature, breaths held collectively. Maya Chen remained standing, her manila folder clutched against her chest like armor. The security guards who had burst through the double doors behind her waited for Harrison's signal to remove her. I said, Harrison repeated, each syllable dripping with disdain, you are not family. You're a delusional girl looking for a payday. Maya's throat constricted, but she forced herself to maintain eye contact with the man Forbes had just named America's most eligible billionaire bachelor. The man who shared her eyes, that distinctive Blackwell blue that had stared back at her from the mirror her entire life. I have evidence, she said, her voice smaller than she'd rehearsed but steady enough to carry across the silent room. Your father built this empire on stolen inheritance. My mother's inheritance. A ripple of whispers swept through the room. Harrison's jaw twitched, the only crack in his perfect composure. Miss, you need to leave. The security guard's hand closed around Maya's upper arm. Wait. The command came from Eleanor Blackwell, Harrison's grandmother and the family matriarch, seated at the opposite end of the table. At 82, her spine remained ramrod straight, her silver hair swept into an impeccable chignon. Her liver-spotted hand raised just an inch off the table. Let her speak. Harrison's nostrils flared. Grandmother, this is preposterous. We have a merger to finalize. Eleanor's gaze never left Maya's face. Young lady, you have 30 seconds to explain yourself before my grandson has you thrown out and charged with trespassing. Maya swallowed hard. 30 seconds to condense 26 years of lies. She opened the folder and withdrew a faded photograph. This is my mother, Lily Chen, with Richard Blackwell II at their college graduation, Stanford, 1996. She slid it across the table. They were engaged before he met your wife, Harrison. Before the car accident that left my mother in a coma for 6 months. Eleanor's perfectly manicured fingers closed around the photograph. Her expression betrayed nothing, but her knuckles whitened. While she was unconscious, Richard married Catherine Montgomery instead. The Blackwell-Montgomery merger saved both family businesses from bankruptcy. And when my mother finally woke up, she was 7 months pregnant, alone, and told Richard had moved on. Harrison slammed his palm on the table. This is absurd. You expect us to believe I expect you to explain why Richard Blackwell paid my mother $5,000 every month until the day she died, Maya interrupted, sliding another document forward. Or why she named him as my father on my birth certificate. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Several board members exchanged glances. Any man can be named on a birth certificate, Harrison scoffed, but uncertainty had crept into his voice. It proves nothing. Maya met his eyes, the same shape as hers, the same shade of blue. Then you won't mind a DNA test. Harrison's laugh was sharp and cold. You think you can walk in here, interrupt the most significant merger in company history, and demand a DNA test based on a photograph and a birth certificate that anyone could have falsified? He turned to the security guards. Remove her. Now. Actually, came a voice from the doorway, she can. All heads turned to see Abigail Reynolds, Blackwell Industries' chief legal counsel, standing in the entrance. Her expression was grave as she approached the table. Ms. Chen filed a petition with the court 3 weeks ago. Judge Holbrook signed this order this morning. She placed a document before Harrison. It requires you to submit to DNA testing to determine paternity and potentially inheritance rights. The color drained from Harrison's face as he scanned the document. Maya watched the transformation with a mixture of vindication and dread. She hadn't wanted it to happen this way, in front of everyone. Her attorney had advised a private meeting, but Harrison had refused every attempt at contact for months. This is ridiculous, Harrison sputtered, looking around the table for support. She's clearly after money. I don't want your money, Maya said quietly. I want the truth. My mother died never knowing what happened to the man she loved, why he abandoned her and their child. Eleanor Blackwell hadn't spoken since receiving the photograph. Now she looked up, her weathered face inscrutable. "Richard was engaged before Catherine?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Maya nodded. "For 3 years. They met their freshman year at Stanford." Eleanor turned to Harrison. "Did you know about this?" His silence was damning. Maya continued, forcing strength into her voice. "After the accident, my mother was told Richard wanted nothing to do with her or the baby. She was given a check and told to disappear. The payments continued monthly, but the letters she wrote him were never answered." "If what you're saying is true," Eleanor said slowly, "why come forward now?" "Richard has been dead for 5 years." The question Maya had prepared for. The question that still made her heart ache. "Because my mother died 6 months ago from cancer. In her final days, she told me everything. She made me promise to find out why the man she knew, the man she said was kind and honorable, would abandon his own child." Harrison's laugh was brittle. Convenient timing, with Blackwell Industries about to triple in value after this merger. Maya stared at him, at the brother who might have grown up alongside her in another version of life. "I was raised by a single mother who worked 3 jobs to put me through college, despite the monthly payments. I graduated summa cum laude from Columbia Law last year. I don't need your money, Harrison. I need to know why your father lied to my mother. Why he let her believe he'd stopped loving her." A heavy silence fell over the room. Board members exchanged uncomfortable glances. The Montgomery representatives, seated at the far end of the table, were whispering urgently among themselves. Eleanor Blackwell rose from her chair with a grace that belied her age. "The meeting is adjourned. We will reconvene after this matter is resolved." Her tone permitted no argument. "Harrison, I expect you to comply with this court order immediately." Harrison's face contorted with rage. "You can't seriously believe what I believe," Eleanor cut him off, "is that there are questions that need answering. Questions about my son that apparently you've known about and kept from me." Her voice remained steady, but her eyes flashed with steel. "If this young woman is telling the truth, Richard has another child. My grandchild." Maya hadn't expected an ally in Eleanor Blackwell. The matriarch's reputation for ruthlessness in business was legendary. Yet something in the way the older woman looked at her, searching, assessing, felt less hostile than Harrison's outright rejection. The room emptied gradually, leaving Maya standing alone with Harrison and Eleanor. The security guards remained by the door, uncertain. Harrison approached Maya, stopping mere inches from her face. His voice dropped to a menacing whisper. "Listen carefully. My father would never have stooped to a relationship with someone like your mother. Whatever scheme you're running, whatever you hope to gain, I will bury you. When the DNA test proves you're nothing but a con artist, I will personally see to it that you never practice law anywhere in this country." Maya felt a chill at the casual cruelty in his words, but she didn't flinch. "If I'm lying," she replied quietly, "I'll accept those consequences. Will you accept yours if I'm telling the truth?" He didn't answer, brushing past her toward the door. "I'll have my lawyer contact yours about the testing procedure." "Harrison." Eleanor's voice stopped him at the threshold. "If the merger is delayed because of this, the board will hold you personally responsible." His shoulders tensed. "This is not my fault. You knew about this woman and chose not to inform the board or me. That was your decision." Eleanor's tone was ice. "Fix it." When the door closed behind him, Maya released a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Her legs trembled beneath her, adrenaline ebbing to leave exhaustion in its wake. Eleanor Blackwell approached, still holding the photograph of Lily and Richard. "My son was many things, not all of them good," she said, studying the image. "But he loved deeply. I remember when he brought Catherine home. There was something missing in his eyes. Something I'd seen before." She looked up at Maya. "If you are his daughter, why would he hide you?" "I don't know," Maya admitted. "That's why I'm here." Eleanor handed back the photograph. "The Blackwell name comes with burdens as well as privileges, Ms. Chen. Be careful what you wish for." With that cryptic warning, she departed, leaving Maya alone in the vast conference room with its panoramic views of Manhattan. Maya sank into one of the abandoned chairs, her fingers tracing the outline of her mother's face in the photograph. Lily Chen, 22 years old, radiant with hope and love, leaning against Richard Blackwell, both of them wearing graduation robes and identical expressions of joy. Her phone vibrated. A text from her attorney. How did it go? Maya stared at the screen, unsure how to answer. She'd expected immediate rejection, perhaps even physical removal. She hadn't expected Eleanor Blackwell's intervention or the court order to work so effectively. The DNA test would happen. In days or weeks, she would have the truth that her mother had died seeking. But as she gazed around the opulent conference room of the empire built on her mother's broken heart, Maya wondered if the truth would bring the closure she sought or only more pain. Her phone vibrated again. This time, the message froze her blood. Unknown number. Your mother should have stayed gone. You have no idea what you've just started. Some secrets are buried for a reason. Maya's hands trembled as she stared at the screen. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, dark clouds gathered over the Manhattan skyline, casting the conference room in shadow. She hadn't expected threats so quickly. But then, she hadn't expected to get this far at all. The last words her mother had whispered haunted her now. Find the truth, Maya. But be careful. Richard wasn't the only one who lied. Maya stared at the sleek black town car idling in front of her modest Brooklyn apartment building. The driver stood beside the rear passenger door, his expression neutral beneath his cap. Ms. Chen, he asked. Mrs. Eleanor Blackwell sent me to bring you to the estate. 3 days had passed since the confrontation at Blackwell Tower. 3 days of silence from Harrison, of whispered phone calls with her attorney, of jumping at every notification on her phone after that anonymous threat. And now, a summons from the family matriarch. I wasn't expecting this, Maya said, clutching her messenger bag tighter. The driver remained impassive. Mrs. Blackwell said to inform you that this is not an official meeting. She wishes to speak privately, before the DNA results. Maya hesitated. Her attorney had advised against any unsupervised contact with the Blackwells. But Eleanor had been the only one who'd shown any willingness to listen. And Maya needed answers that might not be contained in a DNA report. Give me a moment, she said, stepping back into her building's entryway. She texted her best friend, Zoe, being picked up by Eleanor Blackwell's driver. Going to their estate. If you don't hear from me in 3 hours, call my attorney. The Blackwell estate sprawled across 5 manicured acres in Greenwich, Connecticut. As the car wound up the tree-lined driveway, Maya glimpsed the massive stone mansion through breaks in the foliage, a cathedral to old money, with its slate roof and mullioned windows. Her palms dampened. She'd prepared for the corporate battlefield, not this intimate invasion into the heart of Blackwell territory. The car stopped at the main entrance, where Eleanor Blackwell stood waiting. Despite the warm spring day, she wore a tailored navy suit that made her appear both regal and formidable. She dismissed the driver with a nod. Thank you for coming, Ms. Chen, Eleanor said, extending a hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Please, follow me. We'll speak in the garden. It's more private. Maya followed Eleanor through the mansion's grand foyer, past oil paintings of stern-faced Blackwell ancestors, beneath crystal chandeliers that had likely witnessed a century of family secrets. The opulence was staggering, not gaudy, but undeniably, unapologetically wealthy. This was what her mother had been denied. The garden behind the house was an English-style masterpiece, with stone pathways winding through carefully tended beds of spring flowers. Eleanor led her to a secluded gazebo overlooking a small pond. Tea? Eleanor asked, gesturing to the service already laid out. Maya nodded, watching as Eleanor poured with practiced precision. The fine bone china cup felt fragile in Maya's hands. I've had investigators looking into your claims, Eleanor said without preamble. It appears your mother did indeed attend Stanford with my son. They were photographed together at several events. She placed a manila folder on the table between them. But engagement? There's no record. They kept it quiet, Maya replied. My mother said Richard's parents, you and your husband, wouldn't have approved of her. Eleanor's expression remained neutral. Because she was Chinese American? Partly. Mainly because she came from nothing. A scholarship student whose parents ran a dry cleaning business in Oakland. Eleanor sipped her tea, her pale blue eyes, so like Maya's own, studying her over the rim of the cup. My husband was a traditionalist, Eleanor conceded. But I knew about Lily. The admission jolted Maya. You knew. Not everything, clearly. But I knew Richard was involved with someone at Stanford. Someone he was reluctant to bring home. Eleanor set down her cup. What I didn't know was that he maintained contact with her after marrying Catherine. Or that there was a child. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. My mother never lied about who my father was. Even when I was old enough to ask why he wasn't in our lives, she told me he had obligations to another family. She never spoke ill of him. Something flickered across Eleanor's face, a shadow of what might have been respect, or perhaps remorse. The accident that put your mother in a coma, Eleanor said. Tell me about it. Maya frowned. It was a car crash. Late at night on the coastal highway. My mother was driving back to campus from a weekend trip. Another vehicle forced her off the road. She went over an embankment. Eleanor's knuckles whitened around her teacup. Was it investigated? As a single vehicle accident, yes. Why? Eleanor didn't answer directly. Instead, she asked, when exactly did Richard begin paying your mother? The first check arrived while she was still unconscious. After that, they came monthly. No note, no contact information. Just the money. Maya leaned forward. But there were letters. Dozens of them. My mother wrote to Richard for years, asking him to meet his daughter. They were never answered. Eleanor's face had gone very still. May I see these letters? I brought copies, Maya said, reaching into her bag. She withdrew a bound stack of photocopies, her mother's neat handwriting preserved in black and white. My originals are in a safe place. Eleanor accepted the bundle with careful hands. She flipped through the first few pages, her expression growing more troubled with each letter. These were all returned unopened, Maya explained. My mother kept them anyway. She believed that someday, he would want to know me. Eleanor closed the bundle, her fingers lingering on the cover. Ms. Chen, Maya. I need to ask you a difficult question. Did your mother ever mention anyone named Victor? The name struck no chord. Victor? No. Who is he? Victor Montgomery. Catherine's father. Eleanor's gaze was piercing now. He was instrumental in arranging Richard's marriage to Catherine. Before we continue this explosive family drama, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and comment what country you're watching from. The merger saved both our companies during the recession. Maya felt a chill despite the warm spring air. You're saying my mother was, what? An obstacle to be removed? Eleanor didn't confirm or deny. Instead, she rose, walking to the edge of the gazebo. Victor Montgomery died 2 years ago. He was the most ruthless businessman I've ever known, and I've known many. He would have done anything to secure his daughter's position and his company's future. Maya's mind raced, piecing together implications. Are you suggesting he had something to do with my mother's accident? I'm not suggesting anything, Eleanor replied, but her tone suggested otherwise. I'm simply filling in some context. A new voice cut through the garden air. Quite the cozy chat. Maya turned to see Harrison striding toward the gazebo, his face thunderous. Behind him came a woman Maya recognized from society pages and business magazines, Catherine Blackwell, Richard's widow, Harrison's mother. Harrison, Eleanor's voice sharpened. This is a private conversation. In my family home, with a woman claiming to be my sister. Harrison's smile was all teeth, no warmth. I think I have a right to join, don't you? Catherine Blackwell ascended the gazebo steps with graceful contempt. At 54, she remained striking, tall, aristocratic, her blonde hair showing only the most artful touches of silver. She wore diamonds at her throat and wrists, casual wealth that made Maya acutely conscious of her own simple attire. So this is her, Catherine said, studying Maya as one might examine an insect. Richard certainly had a type. Your mother was pretty too, in that delicate way. Maya stiffened. You knew my mother? We met once, Catherine replied, smoothing an invisible wrinkle from her silk blouse. After her accident. I visited her in the hospital. The revelation stunned Maya. Why? Catherine's smile was glacial. To make certain arrangements clear. That's enough, Catherine, Eleanor interjected sharply. No, I don't think it is, Catherine countered. This young woman wants truth. Let's give her some. I knew about Lily Chen. Richard told me everything before we married. It was a condition of our arrangement. Arrangement? Maya echoed. Marriage, dear. Richard needed the Montgomery connections to save Blackwell Industries. I needed a husband with the right family name. It was a perfect business transaction. Catherine's voice was matter-of-fact. Richard's little college romance was irrelevant. Maya felt as though she'd been slapped. Except she was pregnant with his child. A complication, Catherine conceded with a dismissive wave. One that was handled. Harrison stepped forward. Mother, I don't think. Oh, please, Harrison. She wants answers. Why pretend? Catherine turned back to Maya. Your mother was given a choice. A considerable sum of money in exchange for her silence, or nothing at all. She chose wisely. Maya's hands trembled with sudden rage. She was in a coma. She couldn't choose anything. When she woke, then. The terms were explained. By you. By representatives. Catherine's eyes glittered. Richard had already made his choice. He chose his family legacy over a girl he'd known for 3 years. He chose his son, Harrison, over a half-breed bastard. Catherine. Eleanor's voice cracked like a whip. Maya stood, tea forgotten. My mother believed until her dying day that Richard was forced to abandon us. That he would have acknowledged me if he could. Catherine laughed, a brittle sound. How touching. And utterly naive. Then why the payments? Maya demanded. 26 years of monthly checks. A flicker of something, annoyance. Unease, crossed Catherine's perfect features. Richard's guilt money. I allowed it as long as there was no contact. Harrison had been watching the exchange with growing discomfort. Now he interrupted. The DNA test is scheduled for tomorrow. Once it proves you're not Richard's daughter, this circus ends. And if it proves I am? Maya challenged. It won't, Harrison said flatly. But in that impossible scenario, our attorneys would handle any settlement negotiation. You'd sign an NDA, take a check, and disappear just like your mother did. Maya stared at him, this half-brother who despised her very existence. You really believe that's all I want? Money? What else could you possibly want from a family you've never known? Before Maya could answer, her phone buzzed. She glanced down to see a text from an unknown number. Check your email immediately. Eleanor noticed her distraction. Is everything all right? Excuse me, Maya said, stepping away to open her email app. There was a new message from an anonymous address. The subject line read, The Truth About Richard Blackwell. Attached was a video file. Maya hesitated, then clicked play. The video was grainy, obviously taken with the hidden camera technology of the late 90s. It showed an office, wood-paneled, luxurious. 2 men stood facing each other across a desk. With a jolt, Maya recognized the younger one as Richard Blackwell II from photographs. The older man was a stranger, but something in his bearing suggested authority, power. You can't be serious, Victor. Richard's voice was tight with anger. I love her. The baby is mine. I won't just abandon them. Victor Montgomery, Maya realized, smiled coldly. You'll do exactly that, unless you want Blackwell Industries to collapse. Your father's mismanagement has left you vulnerable. Without the Montgomery merger, you're finished. I'll find another way. There is no other way. And your pregnant girlfriend? Such a shame about her accident. Richard went very still. What have you done? Nothing permanent. Yet. She's stable, comatose. The doctors aren't certain when, if, she'll wake. But accidents can take unexpected turns, can't they? You're threatening her life. Richard's voice shook. I'm offering a choice. Marry Catherine, secure both our family's futures, and Lily Chen lives. She'll be well compensated for her inconvenience. Or refuse, and face the consequences. The video ended there. Maya stared at her phone screen, blood roaring in her ears. What is it? Eleanor asked, moving toward her. Maya. Maya's hand shook as she held out her phone. Evidence. Eleanor watched the video, her face growing ashen. Catherine and Harrison remained in the gazebo, unaware of what was unfolding. Who sent this to you? Eleanor asked quietly. I don't know. Grandmother? Harrison called. What's going on? Eleanor handed the phone back to Maya. Show them, she said grimly. Maya returned to the gazebo and held out her phone. You should see this. Harrison took the device reluctantly, Catherine peering over his shoulder. As they watched, the color drained from Catherine's face. Harrison looked up, confusion warring with shock. This can't be real, he stammered. It's real, Catherine said, her voice suddenly hollow. Where did you get this? Someone sent it to me just now, Maya replied. Someone who wants the truth known. Catherine's composure cracked. That video is decades old. It proves nothing. It proves my father was blackmailed into abandoning my mother, Maya countered. It proves your father threatened her life. It's clearly been edited, Catherine snapped, but her hands had begun to tremble. We can have it authenticated, Eleanor said coldly. Along with the DNA test tomorrow. Harrison looked between his mother and Maya, uncertainty clouding his features. For the first time, doubt had crept into his perfect world. Harrison, Catherine said sharply. Call security. Have this woman removed from the property. I invited her here, Eleanor reminded her daughter-in-law. This is still my home, Catherine. The tension between the two women crackled like electricity. Maya watched as decades of power dynamics played out in silent warfare. Harrison broke the standoff. I think we should all take a step back. The DNA test will settle the paternity question. As for this video, he hesitated. If it's authentic, it's concerning. But it doesn't change our current situation. Doesn't it? Maya challenged. It shows that Richard Blackwell was coerced into abandoning his first child. That's fraud, blackmail, and conspiracy at minimum. Ancient history, Catherine dismissed. The statute of limitations hasn't expired on all potential charges, Maya replied, her lawyer's mind racing ahead. And there's no limitation on inheritance claims based on paternity. Harrison's jaw tightened. So it is about money after all. No, Maya said firmly. It's about justice. My mother lived her entire life believing the man she loved had willingly abandoned her. She died without knowing the truth. A tense silence fell over the gazebo. Eleanor finally broke it. Maya, perhaps it would be best if you left now. The DNA test is tomorrow. We can discuss next steps after we have those results. Maya nodded, gathering her things. Thank you for seeing me. As she turned to leave, Harrison called after her. Wait. Maya paused, watching as he approached, his expression conflicted. Did you know about this video before you came to the board meeting? He asked. No. I only had my mother's letters and the birth certificate. Harrison studied her face, searching for deception. Whatever he saw there seemed to give him pause. If he began, then stopped. If the test confirms your claim, what do you actually want? It was the question Maya had asked herself countless times since her mother's death. I want to know my father through the people who knew him, she said honestly. I want to understand why he made the choices he did. And I want the world to know that Lily Chen was more than a footnote in the great Blackwell legacy. Harrison's expression remained guarded, but something had shifted in his eyes. Tomorrow, then. Maya nodded and walked away, feeling 3 sets of eyes on her back as she followed the stone path toward the waiting car. The driver opened the door for her in silence. As the car pulled away from the mansion, Maya's phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. There's more. Richard left you something. Check the safe deposit box. Key under your mother's name at First National, Downtown Branch. Maya stared at the message in disbelief. Her mother had never mentioned a safe deposit box. What else had Lily Chen kept hidden all these years? As the Blackwell estate receded in the rear window, Maya's mind raced with possibilities. The DNA test tomorrow would confirm what she already knew in her heart, that Richard Blackwell too was her father. But the video suggested layers of conspiracy she hadn't imagined. Who had sent it? Who else knew the truth? The car merged onto the highway back toward Manhattan. Maya leaned her head against the cool glass of the window, watching the Connecticut countryside blur past. Tomorrow would change everything, her identity, her future, her understanding of the past. Her phone buzzed once more. Be careful who you trust. Not everyone in the Blackwell world is who they appear to be. Especially Harrison. Maya's brow furrowed. What did the anonymous messenger mean? Harrison had been openly hostile, but straightforward in his opposition. Who should she be more wary of? The answer came in a final message that made her blood run cold. DNA doesn't lie. But it can be manipulated. Watch the samples. Trust no one. As Manhattan's skyline came into view, Maya suddenly realized something that sent a shiver down her spine. The driver hadn't asked for her address for the return journey. He was taking her somewhere, but where? Excuse me, she called, tapping on the partition. Where are we going? The partition lowered slightly. In the rearview mirror, the driver's eyes met hers. Change of plans, Ms. Chen. Mrs. Blackwell requested I take you directly to the laboratory for your DNA test. That's scheduled for tomorrow. Plans have changed. They're waiting for you now. The partition raised again before Maya could protest. She tried the door handle, locked. Her heart began to pound as she reached for her phone to call her attorney, only to find no signal. Somehow, it had been jammed. The town car accelerated, veering suddenly off the highway onto a service road. This wasn't the way to any lab in Manhattan. This wasn't the way to anywhere Maya wanted to go. As panic rose in her throat, Maya saw the driver adjust his rearview mirror. For a brief moment, their eyes met again, and this time she recognized him not as Eleanor's driver, but as someone she'd glimpsed in photographs in the Blackwell mansion. Victor Montgomery's personal assistant, 26 years older, but unmistakable. The same man who had delivered monthly payments to Lily Chen for over 2 decades. The same man who might have arranged an accident on a coastal highway all those years ago. And now, he had Richard Blackwell's daughter locked in the back seat of his car, heading away from witnesses, away from safety, toward an unknown destination. Maya Chen was about to discover that some family secrets were worth killing for again. The town car accelerated down the service road, each turn taking Maya further from the highway, from witnesses, from safety. Her mind raced through options: break the window, attack the driver when he stopped, call for help with a phone that had no signal. Where are you taking me? Maya demanded, pressing against the partition. The driver's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. You've caused a lot of trouble, Ms. Chen. Just like your mother. You knew my mother. 26 years of delivering payments. You think I didn't know Lily? His laugh was humorless. Sweet woman. Stubborn. Wouldn't take the hint to stay quiet. Maya's blood chilled. It was you. You delivered the threat to my mother after her accident. Just the messenger. The car slowed, turning onto a narrow road bordered by abandoned warehouses. Industrial wasteland, miles from anything. Victor Montgomery gave the orders. I followed them. Victor is dead. But his legacy lives on. The driver pulled up beside a weathered building with boarded windows. Some messes need cleaning up, even after the boss is gone. Maya scanned her surroundings desperately. No other vehicles, no pedestrians, nothing but crumbling concrete and rusting metal. The driver exited, circling to her door. When it opened, she saw the gun in his hand. Out, he ordered. Slowly. Maya stepped out, the spring air suddenly cold against her skin. The driver, Victor's faithful attack dog, gestured toward the warehouse entrance with his weapon. Inside. You're going to kill me. Maya's voice remained steady despite her racing heart. That will raise more questions than it answers. Tragic accident. Troubled young woman obsessed with a fantasy about being a Blackwell. Couldn't handle the rejection, the humiliation. He shrugged. Suicides happen every day. I'm expected at a DNA test tomorrow. People will look for me. After they find your body and the suicide note, they'll close the case. His smile was practiced, empty. I've been managing Blackwell secrets since before you were born, Ms. Chen. This isn't my first cleanup. As they approached the warehouse door, Maya's mind flashed to her mother, trapped in a hospital bed, vulnerable, receiving the ultimatum that would shape the rest of her life. Had this same man stood over her, explaining the terms? Had he arranged the accident that nearly killed her? Something hardened in Maya's chest. She would not die here. Not before the truth came out. Not before justice for her mother. The warehouse door creaked open. The driver motioned her inside, the gun unwavering. Maya stepped into the dimness, eyes adjusting to see vast empty space, broken windows filtering pale light across concrete floors. Keep moving, the driver instructed. To the back. Maya took 3 steps forward, then stumbled deliberately, dropping to one knee. Sorry, my heel. As the driver glanced down, Maya exploded upward, driving her elbow into his solar plexus with all her strength. He grunted, doubling over. She grabbed for the gun, wrestling it sideways as they grappled. A deafening bang echoed through the empty warehouse as the weapon discharged. The driver staggered back, looking down in shock at the spreading crimson stain on his chest. His expression transformed from surprise to rage as he lunged for her again, his wounded body running on adrenaline and decades of loyalty to the Montgomerys. Maya scrambled backward, the gun heavy and unfamiliar in her hands. She'd never fired a weapon, never imagined she would need to. The driver advanced, his face contorted with hatred. "Drop the gun, Collins." The new voice echoed from the warehouse entrance. Maya turned to see Harrison Blackwell silhouetted against the daylight, his own weapon trained on the driver. "Mr. Blackwell," Collins gasped, clutching his wound. "I was handling the situation by murdering my sister in an abandoned warehouse." Harrison's voice was ice. "That wasn't the plan." Maya's breath caught. "Sister." He'd called her his sister. Collins swayed on his feet, blood seeping between his fingers. "Your mother said my mother doesn't give the orders anymore." Harrison stepped forward, his gun unwavering. "On the ground, Collins. Now." The driver collapsed to his knees, then toppled sideways. Harrison approached cautiously, kicking the fallen gun away before checking Collins's pulse. "He's alive." "Barely." Harrison pulled out his phone. "This is Harrison Blackwell. I need an ambulance at the old Falcone warehouse complex, Building 3. Gunshot wound to the chest. And send the police." He hung up, turning to Maya. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, still processing. "How did you find me?" "GPS tracker in all the company cars." Harrison removed his suit jacket, folding it into a pressure bandage for Collins's wound. "Plus, I've had Collins under surveillance since you showed that video. I didn't trust his loyalty." Maya stared at him, struggling to reconcile this man with the one who'd sneered at her in the Blackwell boardroom. "Why are you helping me? You said I wasn't family." Harrison's jaw tightened as he applied pressure to Collins's wound. "I said a lot of things before I saw that video. Before I started asking questions no one wanted to answer." "What questions?" "Like why my mother made a private call to Collins immediately after you left the estate. Like why a 25-year-old safe deposit box key was in my father's personal effects, with specific instructions it should be destroyed upon his death." Harrison met her eyes. "Instructions my mother ignored." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Harrison stood, wiping blood from his hands with a handkerchief. "The DNA test is still happening tomorrow," he said. "Under secure conditions, with independent observers. No substitutions, no manipulations. Whatever the truth is, I want to know it." Maya searched his face, finding no trace of the contempt she'd seen before. "Why the change of heart?" "Because I've spent my entire life believing my father was a good man who made hard choices for his family." If that was a lie, Harrison's voice roughened. "If my mother and Victor Montgomery forced him to abandon his child, his first child, then everything I thought I knew about our family is false." The warehouse doors burst open as paramedics and police swarmed in, ending their conversation. The next hours passed in a blur of statements, evidence collection, and careful documentation of Collins's muttered confession as he was loaded into the ambulance. Maya found herself in the back of a police cruiser, not as a suspect but as a protected witness, headed toward a safe house where she would remain until the DNA test the following morning. Harrison had disappeared into a flurry of phone calls and legal discussions, but his parting words lingered. "Tomorrow we learn the truth. All of it." The laboratory waiting room was silent despite the crowd. Eleanor Blackwell sat rigid in one corner, her attorney beside her. Catherine paced near the windows, her normally perfect appearance showing signs of strain, hair slightly disheveled, makeup not quite concealing the shadows beneath her eyes. Harrison stood apart from both women, his expression unreadable. Maya sat with her own attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Helen Park who had been her professor at Columbia Law. The DNA samples had been collected an hour earlier, the results expedited given the extraordinary circumstances and public interest. Collins's attempted murder of Maya had made headlines across the country, throwing the Blackwell dynasty into unprecedented scandal. The door opened. A technician entered with a sealed envelope, followed by the court-appointed observer who had supervised the testing process. "The results are ready," the technician announced. Eleanor spoke first. "Proceed." The observer accepted the envelope, breaking the seal and removing the documents inside. He scanned them briefly, then looked up. "The test confirms with 99.9998% certainty that Richard Blackwell II is the biological father of Maya Chen." The words fell like stones into still water, ripples of consequence. Expanding outward. Maya had known this truth her entire life, yet hearing it confirmed scientifically, irrefutably, sent a tremor through her body. Catherine made a small, wounded sound. Eleanor closed her eyes briefly, her composure perfect but for the slight trembling of her clasped hands. Harrison was the first to move. He crossed the room in long strides, stopping before Maya. For one suspended moment, they simply looked at each other, same eyes, same determined jaw, same Blackwell blood. Then Harrison extended his hand. "Hello, sister." Maya took his hand, finding it warm and solid. "Hello, brother." Catherine's voice cut through the moment. "This changes nothing." She signed away any claim to the Blackwell name or fortune when she accepted those payments. "She didn't sign anything," Harrison countered without looking away from Maya. "Her mother did, under duress, after being threatened by your father." "Prove it," Catherine snapped. Maya released Harrison's hand. "I can." All eyes turned to her. "The safe deposit box at First National," Maya continued. "Richard left something there for me. Something he wanted me to find if the truth ever came out." Harrison nodded. "I'll take you there. Now." "Harrison." Catherine's voice rose. "You can't seriously be siding with her. Everything we've built, everything your father worked for, that's exactly why I'm doing this, Mother." Harrison turned to face her fully. "To honor what my father actually wanted, not what he was forced to do." Eleanor rose, her movements deliberate. "I'm coming as well. Richard was my son. I have a right to know what he left behind." Catherine looked from face to face, finding no allies. "This is insanity. You're all being manipulated by a con artist with a good DNA match and a convenient story. A story confirmed by your father's assistant, who attempted to murder me yesterday," Maya pointed out. "Collins is speaking to prosecutors right now about Victor Montgomery's decades of criminal activity on behalf of your family." Catherine's perfect facade cracked entirely. "Victor did what was necessary. The merger saved both our companies." "Richard understood that, did he?" Eleanor's voice was deadly quiet. "Did my son understand that his fiancée's car accident was arranged by his future father-in-law? Did he understand that his child would be hidden away, that the woman he loved would be threatened and silenced?" "It was business," Catherine insisted, but her voice had lost its conviction. "It was criminal," Harrison corrected. "And it ends today." The safe deposit box key fit perfectly. The bank manager stepped back, giving them privacy as the metal drawer slid open. Inside lay a sealed envelope, yellowed with age, and a small velvet box. Maya lifted the envelope first. It was addressed simply, "For my daughter." With trembling fingers, she broke the seal and unfolded the letter inside. The handwriting was firm, masculine, decisive, her father's hand, reaching across decades to speak to her at last. "My dearest daughter, if you are reading this, then I have failed in the worst way a father can fail. I have left you to grow up without knowing me, without my protection and love. For this, I can never be forgiven, but I hope I might be understood. Your mother, Lily, was the great love of my life. We planned to marry, to build a life together, to raise you in a home filled with joy. Then came the accident that nearly took her from us both. While she lay unconscious, Victor Montgomery made his offer: marry his daughter to save Blackwell Industries, or watch both Lily and our family legacy be destroyed. ****. I made a devil's bargain. I agreed to marry Catherine, to secure the merger, to save the company that generations of Blackwells had built. In return, Victor promised Lily would recover, that you both would be provided for financially, though I could never acknowledge you publicly. ****. What I didn't know then, what I discovered only years later, was that the accident itself was Victor's doing. When I confronted him, he reminded me that accidents could still happen, that you and your mother remained vulnerable. As long as I kept my distance, sent the payments, you would be safe. ****. I have lived with this cowardice, this failure, every day since. I have watched you from afar, your school achievements, your graduation, your first steps into the world. I have kept every article, every photograph I could obtain. I have loved you silently, from a distance that has broken my heart daily. In this box is my grandmother's engagement ring, the one I gave your mother, the one she was wearing the day of her accident. Victor's men took it from her hospital room, delivered it to me as proof of their access to her. I've kept it all these years, waiting for the day it might return to its rightful owner, either Lily, or you. ****. I don't know if I will still be alive when you discover the truth. If I am, I hope for the chance to know you, to ask your forgiveness face to face. If not, know that my greatest regret was not finding the courage to defy those who kept us apart. You are a Blackwell by blood and by right. Never let anyone tell you otherwise. With all my love, your father, Richard. Maya looked up from the letter, tears streaming unchecked down her face. Harrison read over her shoulder, his own eyes glistening. Eleanor stood rigidly nearby, her composure finally broken. He knew, Eleanor whispered. All those years, he knew Victor had orchestrated everything. Maya opened the velvet box. Inside lay an antique emerald ring, its deep green stone surrounded by diamonds in a platinum setting. Her mother had described this ring once, the color of new leaves in spring, like the future we were planning. He loved her, Maya said softly. He never stopped loving her. Harrison placed a hand on Maya's shoulder. And he loved you. He just couldn't show it. Maya slipped the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit, as though it had been waiting for her all along. Along with the letter and ring, the box contained a flash drive, carefully preserved in protective wrapping. There's more, she said, holding it up. The Blackwell Tower boardroom was packed beyond capacity. Board members, executives, major shareholders, and legal representatives filled every chair, with more standing along the walls. At the center of the table sat Maya Chen, flanked by Harrison and Eleanor Blackwell. Conspicuously absent was Catherine, who had been placed under house arrest that morning after Collins's full confession implicated her in the conspiracy to abduct and murder Maya. On the wall screen, Richard Blackwell II looked out at the assembly, a younger version recorded in secret nearly 20 years before his death. This is my testimony, Richard said, his voice strong and clear despite the recording's age. A record of the crimes committed by Victor Montgomery, with the knowledge and cooperation of his daughter Catherine, against Lily Chen and our child. For the next 30 minutes, Richard detailed everything, the threats, the coercion, the years of silent compliance as he watched his first child grow up from a distance. He named dates, times, witnesses. He provided financial records showing how Victor had systematically looted both companies during the merger, enriching himself while weakening the new combined entity. I make this recording knowing it may never be seen, Richard concluded. Victor's reach is too great, his network too extensive for me to risk coming forward while he lives. But if someday the truth emerges, if my daughter ever discovers her birthright, this testimony will vindicate her claim and expose those who conspired to rob her of her father. The recording ended. Silence blanketed the room for several heartbeats before erupting into chaotic discussion. Maya let the noise wash over her, feeling strangely calm amid the storm. Her father's words, her father's face, had given her what 26 years of questions could not, certainty. Harrison stood, raising his hands for quiet. Gradually, the room settled. You've all witnessed evidence of criminal conspiracy, fraud, and coercion that fundamentally altered the course of Blackwell Industries, he began. You've learned that Maya Chen is, without question, Richard Blackwell's firstborn child. He turned to Maya. The board must now vote on 2 resolutions. First, to acknowledge Maya Chen as a legitimate Blackwell heir with all attendant rights and privileges. Second, to appoint her to the board seat left vacant by my father's death 5 years ago. Murmurs rippled through the gathering. Eleanor Blackwell rose next, her authority silencing the whispers. As company bylaws require, a DNA-confirmed descendant of the founding family cannot be denied board representation if they meet qualification standards. Her gaze swept the room. Ms. Chen graduated summa cum laude from Columbia Law. She has worked in corporate governance and securities law. She is more than qualified. A board member raised his hand. What about the Montgomery merger? If these allegations against Victor and Catherine are proven, the entire basis for our corporate structure is compromised. We will address those legal implications separately, Harrison answered. Today's vote concerns only Maya's rightful place in this company and this family. The vote was called. One by one, hands raised in affirmation. When the final tally was announced, unanimous in Maya's favor, she felt a weight lift that she hadn't known she carried. Not the weight of being denied her birthright, but the weight of her mother's unanswered questions, her father's silent suffering, the truth buried beneath decades of lies. Harrison extended his hand to her. Welcome to the board, Ms. Blackwell Chen. Maya took his hand, rose, and addressed the room for the first time as a recognized Blackwell. My mother once told me that the truth always finds its way to the light, no matter how deep it's buried. Her voice carried without effort to every corner. I come to Blackwell Industries not seeking revenge or personal gain, but to honor both my parents, Lily Chen, who raised me with love and integrity despite every hardship, and Richard Blackwell, who was denied the chance to be the father he wanted to be. She looked around at the faces watching her, some calculating, some curious, some already measuring her worth as an ally or opponent. I bring with me new perspectives, different experiences, and a commitment to ensuring that what happened to my parents never happens again, that this company operates with transparency and ethical governance at its core. Before we continue this explosive family drama, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and comment what country you're watching from. Maya's gaze settled on Harrison, finding unexpected support in his expression. I look forward to working alongside my brother to build a legacy our father would be proud of. The meeting adjourned. As executives filed out, Maya found herself beside Eleanor, the family matriarch who had lost a son and gained a granddaughter in the space of a week. Richard would be proud, Eleanor said quietly. Not just of what you've accomplished, but of who you are. Maya touched the emerald ring on her finger. I wish I could have known him. You will, Eleanor replied. Through the company he built, through the son he raised, through the memories those of us who loved him can share. She hesitated, then added, and perhaps through me, if you're willing. Before Maya could respond, Harrison joined them. The press is gathered downstairs. They know the DNA results have been confirmed. We should make a statement. Maya nodded, gathering herself. I'm ready. As they walked toward the elevator, Harrison spoke softly. I owe you an apology. Shut up. You're not family were the first words I ever said to you. Maya looked at her half-brother, this man who had gone from enemy to ally in the space of days. And now? Harrison's smile was tinged with regret and hope in equal measure. Now I know better. You are family. You always were. The elevator doors opened onto the Blackwell Tower lobby, where a wall of cameras and reporters waited. Maya stepped forward between her brother and grandmother, head high, her mother's strength and her father's determination flowing through her veins. The Blackwell blood had finally found its way home. Outside the tower, spring sunshine broke through clouds that had threatened rain all morning. Maya thought of her mother, of the photograph of Lily and Richard in their graduation robes, young and in love with their whole lives ahead of them. She thought of her father's hidden love, his silent watch over her life from a distance. Some secrets were meant to be buried. Others were meant to be found, to heal, to restore what had been broken. As cameras flashed and questions flew, Maya Chen, now Maya Blackwell Chen, stood in her birthright at last, the emerald ring catching the light like new leaves in spring.